It's time now for the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. Here's your host, Matthew Hatfield.
Yes it will be an everlasting love. Welcome to the second episode of the VirginiaPreps.com podcast here. Hoping to do this weekly or every other week here on the webpage, as we are brought to you, part of the Rivals.com network of sites powered by Yahoo Sports. Glad you are checking out the website. We have a ton of free and premium material for you to peruse daily here on VirginiaPreps.com. And we got some special guests on this second installment here for the final week of September. And a lot of football teams trying to make it a finish to September to remember. We'll tell you who we have on the podcast for this edition. Head football coach of the three-time reigning state champion Highland Springers. We're talking about Coach Loren Johnson will join us to chat about his team and a lot of interesting things Coach Johnson had to say for the podcast. We also caught up with the voice of the Blacksburg Bruins out there in ESPN Radio in Blacksburg, Mark Fout. We've had him on our radio show on High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com, which you can hear every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to noon with yours truly and the coach, Ed Young, as Blacksburg was getting ready to take on Phoebus in the state semifinal on their way to a state championship 2 years ago. And the Bruins looking like a team that could very well be in contention for a state championship in their second season at the Class 4 level after moving up from Class 3. So we'll hear what Mr. Mark Fout had to tell us on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. But first up, it's going to be Coach Loren Johnson. Back here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast, we have a special guest with us. He is the head football coach of the three-time defending state champion Highland Springers, and they have a huge matchup in the Capital District on Friday night as the Springers hit the road to Henrico to take on the fellow unbeaten Warriors. We say hello to our pal, Coach Loren Johnson. Coach, how you been?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. Staying busy here, and we appreciate you coming on here as you get ready for this game coming up on Friday. Let's dive into your background a little bit, though, on this podcast. People that don't know about Loren Johnson, where you went to school, your playing days, and what brought you to Highland Springs, where you've helped the Springers become one of the state's premier programs.
Well, if you go back to the very, 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 very humble beginnings, you got to start where I grew up. I'm from Miami, Florida originally. Todd Grantham and Billy Height came into my high school, Miramar High School, and recruited me heavily. In doing so, I had the opportunity to visit 5 schools, being Indiana, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, and NC State, and I chose the Hokies over that. And at the age of 17, left home and never went back home. So playing for Virginia Tech was definitely a joy, and it brought me to the place that I am right now, and I played for some great coaches, and Coach Foster and Lou West, my defensive back coach, and then, of course, Coach Beamer taught me a lot about special teams and how to carry myself as a man. But in the midst of all of that, I always thought that, hey, I would get back to Miami, Florida, and coach high school football, and that never manifested itself. So I ended up staying in the New River Valley at the time and coaching at Lord Bonneton because of Tony Hart. He's a guy that introduced me to high school football, and coached a little bit with Coach Robinson a year after. And then sitting in my office one day in Glenver High School was where I was a teacher at the time. Somebody slid a note under my door about 2 jobs that were open. One was Stonewall Jackson in Manassas, and the other one was Dinwiddie High School. Interviewed for Dinwiddie, thought I got the job. Obviously, they never called me back.
Wow.
Did not think I had the job at Stonewall Jackson. But they did call me back, and I started my coaching career there as a head coach at the age of 25. Coached 5 years there. Coached some really, really good football players, Damian Thigpen, Chris Garrett, Ryan Williams, Breon Shelton, and a host of other guys that went on to play college ball. And then after 5 years being there, it was time to move, just because really one of the major reasons is cost of living and some things in the school that I did not agree with. We were kind of going in 2 different directions. Applied for some jobs in Georgia, applied for some jobs in North Carolina, but the job I ultimately got was the job at Highland Springs. Started back in 2008, and here we are right now in the present day.
Yeah, and the rest is history, as they say. It's just been a phenomenal job you've done at Highland Springs with your players and your coaches there, and we'll get through a lot here in this podcast talking about some of these key players in the game coming up on Friday night. But every team has its own unique set of challenges and goals, and, of course, you guys coming off 3 consecutive state titles. What do you love most about coaching this team here in 2018?
Well, this team is different, as is everyone that I've ever coached. But this team is not necessarily lighthearted. But this team is a lot more humor, a lot more laughter, a lot less pressure. They've really gravitated to the point of me saying, hey, every team is different. Let's be a unique team. Let's do it our way. Let's have fun, enjoy the game, and let's work from there. So with that being said, there is a lot of attention to detail, but there's a lot more laughter and a lot more fun and a lot less stress with this group of guys. So to be honest with you, man, when you're a head coach for 15 years, you look for the simple things, and that's something I've looked for in this team, and I've enjoyed a bunch. They've allowed me to come to work every day with different challenges, but enjoy those challenges because we can laugh at each other and have a good time.
We're chatting with the head football coach of the 5-0 Highland Springs Springers. That's Loren Johnson. His team's got a big one coming up on Friday night, which we'll touch on with the Henrico Warriors here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. Coach, the other day I saw a tweet where somebody put out, I think it was Varsity VA, that the Highland Springs Springers are averaging 57.2 points per game, and your team has a chance to break the single-season scoring record set by Hampton in 1996 of 819 points. That team, led by Ronald Curry, averaged 58.5 points per game and is considered by many to be the best high school football team in Virginia. I'm sure some of your players and coaches have seen it, and I know the old mantra of one game at a time. Matt, I'm not worried about that mess, but off the 3 state titles, are you a believer in setting the bar for these guys of having a historic record-setting type of year, or is that type of challenge putting too much on teenage kids, you think?
Well, I'm not going to say it's putting too much on them. I've come to the realization that kids are very, very different than you and I were 10, 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. So giving them a goal that's lofty like that, it would be a great goal. Now, that's not a goal that we set to accomplish or even anything that we've even talked about. And the one thing I explain to the kids all the time is this: they don't give trophies to guys who start the season well. They give trophies to guys who end the season well. Mm-hmm. So in the midst of everything, it was retweeted. The tweet was sent to the guy that runs our Twitter page, and he asked me if I should retweet this or not. And I said, by all means, go ahead and retweet it. It gives them a goal. But when you retweet those things, I explain to the kids, you got to understand that no team on your schedule or no team remaining on your schedule is going to want you to accomplish that goal. So to accomplish a goal like that, you got to be at your best. You got to play your best football at all times. So for us, we're just going to go to work, man. We're going to try to accomplish our goals. And if our goals that we try to accomplish weekly get us to that point, then so be it. But it's not something that I set out at the beginning of the season. Hey, this is how many points we got to score. This is how many I want to score. Are you guys buying into this, or what are you going to do? So, no, we're not shying away from it, but no, we're not, focusing on it as well. Henrico's going to be a good football team this weekend. They're going to play us extremely hard, and they're going to make it tough for us in every aspect for us to score points. But, we're going to absolutely go out with the point in mind or the object in mind to be as great as a football team we possibly can be.
Well, we'll get to that Henrico game here in just a moment. But the thing that people love about you is your honesty and, as your passion for your kids, getting these kids to have success in life beyond football and going to college. And that class a couple years ago with about 30-plus seniors going to college was just absolutely astonishing. And this year you got another great crop of seniors. I know your running back here, Raekwon Rabbit Smith, I believe, committed to Norfolk State recently. How many seniors do you estimate from this team do you see playing in college?
So if it's based on what's traveling to schools, to visit schools this weekend, you're talking about 15 to 20 plus.
Okay.
And I know that's a wide margin. It's going to be based on some guys finishing strong academically in some places. But we got kids going to Shawan, we got kids going to Towson, we got kids going to Hampton, we got kids going to Shenandoah, we got kids going to JMU. We got people going all over the place this weekend to do a couple of different things. So if that is any indication of how many kids are going to go to school, then we're excited excited about that. And the great thing about what we have going on is that we got some more kids that are going to be juniors or that are going to be sophomores that have opportunities to travel and see games and visit with coaches and have scholarship offers as well. So it's by no means going to stop anytime soon. But the biggest thing, like you mentioned, our kids have bought into being men, and being a man means you can do anything that anybody asks you to do at any time within means if you put your mind and your heart into it. So the kids have done everything we asked them to do in that regard, and because of it, they're being rewarded.
We had Rivals.com's Adam Freeman on our radio show on ESPN 94.1 earlier this week, and I believe he'll be covering your game Friday night along with Denny Lewis for us on VirginiaPreps.com. And he said, if you think Highland Springs is good now, wait till you see some of these freshmen and sophomores they have. I want to know, how's that competition on a day-to-day basis between the upperclassmen and underclassmen for you at practice?
So we tell upperclassmen, let's start with probably the wealthiest position on our roster, which is wide receivers. We tell guys that play wide receiver, if you drop a ball, there's a ninth grader waiting to take your position who has not dropped the ball. So if that's any indication of the work ethic and the competition day to day, then that just tells you right there how good we'll be here in the next couple of years. We got some young quarterbacks, some young linemen. We've always seemed to have a plethora of running backs, so we got that. But the position I'm very excited about is our offensive line. 4 of those 5 guys will return next year. And then I'm more excited about the defensive line, where 3 out of those 4 guys will return next year. And then the young guys on both sides of the ball that will fill those gaps of the 1 or 2 seniors that are leaving. We just got, a group of guys that we're excited about that have done an excellent job of buying in at a young age. And I got to give credit to our JV head coach, Coach Saunders, and the guys that work with him. They've done a phenomenal job of doing everything that we ask them to do, and then some, to get the kids prepared and ready to go. Because I want them to have their own twist on the JV level, since those guys are playing at a high level. And Coach Fareed has taken those guys to astonishing heights, because he's taken what we've done and built upon it and put his own twist on it and made it something very interesting and something we enjoy watching.
A few more minutes with Loren Johnson, the head football coach of the undefeated Highland Springs Springers, here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. Highland Springs continuing its excellence on and off the football field. And, Coach, there's so many standouts for your team. We could go hours talking about them, from your quarterback, Devontae Waller, to all your running backs, McIver, Smith, your receivers with Ollie Jennings and Smalls, and Treyman Talbert, I know, is a big-time X factor for you in all phases of the game. But defensively, we touched on the high scoring. Defensively, you guys have given up just 14 points in 5 games, got a few shutouts there. What are you liking most about the defense so far?
His name is Christian White.
Okay.
That's what I like about our defense. Coach Simmons does a good job of getting everybody where they need to be. But Christian White he's our leader of our program. I mean, and he's everything you want him to be. He's a 4.0 student. His girlfriend was the salutatorian in last year's class.
Wow.
The guy, he leads our football team in a positive manner. He's great in school. His family is very supportive of what we've done and what we're doing. You start talking about a kid being well-rounded and doing everything that you ask him to do and making great decisions on and off the field, right? I jokingly say I married up when I married my wife. Well, he's a young man that's grasped that concept at the age of 17, right? His girlfriend is smarter than he is. You understand what I'm coming from? So
right.
Not many guys can grasp that concept, but Christian, he just plays well, man. He's our leader in the middle. If we had to put him at strong safety, he could play that position and still be a leader. But we have the opportunity to play him at our middle linebacker. He gets every guy lined up. He knows what everybody's supposed to do. He leads us on and off the football field. And he's going to either be a great coach, great husband, great father, or all of the above, all right? And he's going to be a great football player. But that's what I like most about our defense. The guys that are around him, they elevate him, and he elevates them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not just one guy doing it and making everybody great. But those guys run to the ball. They're trying to accomplish all of their goals each and every week, our weekly goals that we have. He's working with guys. He's leading them by talking to them, not yelling at them. I can go on about Christian forever.
Mm-hmm.
Our defensive line is playing great, which helps him. Our secondary is playing great, which helps. And the guys are competing. We got about 7 guys that play in our secondary. That's a lot for a high school. Yeah. We got about 5 guys that play at the 3 linebacker positions. I think that's a lot in high school. And we got about 8 guys that play on the defensive line. I think that's a tremendous amount of kids to play on the defensive line in high school. So, we got a lot of depth. We got kids that have bought into it. We got kids that are playing extremely well. And, you got me talking about the defense. I kind of light up. Even though I call offensive plays, I once was, a defensive guy playing at Virginia Tech. So it makes me feel comfortable, when I'm making decisions or I'm doing things that our defense will do a decent job or more than decent job of holding down the fort if we put them in a bind.
No doubt about it. Last 2 for you, Coach, and I thank you for your time immensely here. You got a big game with Henrico on Friday. The Springers have won 18 in a row in the series. Henrico trying to snap that. What stands out to you about Henrico from watching the Warriors on film?
They're a talented bunch of kids, and Coach Glasgow's doing a great job of getting them to attack on defense. He's always been great, at calling defensive plays, even when he's our defensive coordinator at Highland Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So he's doing a great job with the defense, and then he's got an offensive coordinator that's done some tricky things to kind of get those guys in position to score. And then when you add the piece of McDaniel playing running back and Jones playing quarterback with Carter playing receiver, you kind of got a triple-head monster there that they can do things in different ways. So if you key on the running back, you got a quarterback that'll beat you. And if you key on the run, you got a receiver that can beat you deep. So we got our hands full with those guys and what they can do athletically. We just got to come out and we got to be fundamentally sound in what we do, and we got to run to the football. So all the way around, they do some things that I like a lot on the defense side of the ball and the offense side of the ball. But with that being said, it puts us at a disadvantage at times if we go in with the wrong mindset. But if we go in with the right mindset, we put ourselves in position to win a tough football game and come out victorious.
Final one. I've had people tell me that you and the Highland Springs are a match made in heaven. It's the ideal coach-school marriage, if you will, the perfect fit. Now, I've also had some message board people ask me this, and I'm going to throw it your way. Long-term, have you given any thought to college coaching, or is it just a case of we have something going so good here that it's better than some college situations and there's nowhere I'd rather be?
Well, I'll be very, very honest with you. And I try to be all the time, just be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I am intrigued by the college game, not only because I played there, but just the recruiting piece, being involved with kids, developing them more as young men, giving them the opportunity to excel at life by just throwing some little nuggets at them here and there. And there have been some opportunities, but those opportunities didn't fit my family well. I got 2 boys. One's in the 8th grade, one's in the 6th grade. Both of them are football players.
Uh-oh.
If the right opportunity doesn't present itself, then I got to coach those guys through high school, which puts me, 6 years out, 7 years out.
Right.
But at 48 years old, do you hire, a high school coach to become a college coach? If that situation gets there. But if it's right for the family, if it's right for my wife, if it's right for my daughter, who's the youngest of the 3, if it's right for the boys, then it's definitely something I will explore. But at this point in time, nothing has been in that situation. Nothing has prompted me to do so. So I'm happy where I am. I do like growth. I want to grow as an individual. I want my family to grow as a group. I want to be able to do more for my family, and I want to be able to do more for the young men that I'm coaching. So that kind of sounds like a catch-22, but it's not. While I'm here, I'm going to focus my attention and all of my efforts to Highland Springs High School. And then I got 2 young men that'll bear my last name that are going to even allow me to pour more into it, right? The wife's not going to ask me, hey, where are you, or what are you doing when I got the boys at practice? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
She may call them, but she won't call me at that point in time. But all jokes aside, the game intrigues me. Every level intrigues me. The NFL intrigues me. You know what I mean? So giving myself an opportunity to do those things in my lifetime is something I've always desired to do. But again, if it's not the right opportunity at the right place at the right time, then it's not something I'm going to change just for the sake of changing or saying that I'm doing something. We got something going good at Highland Springs, and while we got it going, with the guys that I'm working with. If the decision for me to leave doesn't affect their lives and it affects my family's lives, then there's no need to go anywhere, especially in the state of Virginia right now.
Well, some great Region 5B squads when you look at the likes of Henrico, Varina, LC Bird, Atlee, and, of course, the unbeaten three-time reigning state champion Springers. The conversation begins and often ends with them. Coach, thanks so much. Best wishes on Friday night and beyond, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your time, man. And all the listeners, keep following what this guy's doing. He's doing a great job. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Coach. We'll talk soon. That's Loren Johnson of the Highland Springers here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. Many thanks to Coach Johnson for giving us a few minutes on a busy game week against their rival in Henrico. Should be a dandy with Highland Springs and Henrico on Friday night, two of the best teams in Class 5 and two of the finest in the Richmond area. And tell you what, he's right about linebacker Christian White. There are some really, really talented linebackers in the state of Virginia. There have been for a few years now, and Brandon Smith of Louisa qualifies as arguably the best. Tell you what, though, there might not be a linebacker out there that means more to his team than Christian White does to Highland Springs. He is just terrific, and in my eyes, one of the most underrated kids in the state. So glad to hear Coach Johnson give him the well-deserved praise there, and I think someone's going to get a good college football player. He is certainly the backbone of a very, very stingy defense, which in my eyes can be ranked among some of the best we've seen in the last decade or so in Virginia. Has a chance to go down as one of the best of all time if they continue this pace that they're on. And Henrico's offense will pose a mighty, mighty large challenge to that very, very tough defense of Highland Springs. We now shift gears and go out to the Roanoke Blacksburg area. We caught up with Mark Fout. He is the play-by-play voice of the Blacksburg Bruins. They're off to a great start, halfway through an unbeaten regular season. Here's what Mark told us on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. All right, here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast, we have a special guest with us. He is the voice of the Bruins of Blacksburg High School. You can follow him on Twitter at BHSFB Radio. We're talking about our good friend Mark Fout. Mark, how you been doing this year?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you doing tonight?
Great to catch up with you. I'm doing well here as we chat about the Bruins of Blacksburg High and some of the football teams and players out in your neck of the woods. And, of course, you've seen some great ball games this year and, of course, a championship just a couple of seasons ago. 5-0 start for this Bruins ball club under a new coach. Are you surprised by it at all?
Not really, given the talent that was coming back. I think Eddie Sloss, who's the new coach at Blacksburg, he played at Blacksburg High School. He was part of the '89 championship team. And he knows a lot of the Blacksburg players. He coached as an assistant at Blacksburg for a number of years, 7 or 8 seasons. And I think he was a really good fit. He's a little bit of a low-key coach. And the thing I really like about him is he delegates the authority to his coordinators and lets them do what they do. And it works quite well. Blacksburg had a number of key players back that were a part of that 2016 state championship. And the beat goes on in Blacksburg. Not really too much has changed. Coach Sloss retained a lot of the assistant coaches that were on Thad Wells' staff when Thad went down to Mooresville, North Carolina. That has helped as well in terms of continuity. A lot of the play calling on offense has not changed very much. Almost all of the defensive coaching staff came back this year. So there were a lot of ingredients there that were setting themselves up for the beat to go on in Blacksburg. And so far, that's what has happened.
And a couple of good years to end up the Coach Wells era. They won a state championship back in 2016, successfully move up to Class 4 from Division 3 in 2017. Had the tough playoff loss to Salem, of course. Cole Beck and some other valuable seniors from their championship the year before graduate. Some people wonder about the new coaching staff here, but they've taken on some good challenges here and passed them with flying colors, as you've witnessed here, beating Salem just the other night for the first time on the road since 1994, a 24-21 ball game you can delve into for me, as well as beating the likes of Giles in Class 2, who's no pushover. Amherst is known for success in Division 4. Richland's in Class 2, and Lord Botetourt, who we ranked number 1 in Division 3 to start this year. So they've taken on some good competition and fared very well.
They have, and it wasn't that long ago that Blacksburg dropped 6 in a row at the hands of Giles. They run that unique single-wing offense. Mm-hmm. It's the traditional season opener for both teams. It's been the opening game for the last 30 years, and it's really difficult to prepare for a single-wing offense when you very rarely see it. Blacksburg, of course, has played Stanton River and Giles so much the last couple of years. They sort of have a handle on that, but anytime you can defeat Giles, that's a perennial playoff participant in Class 2. Lord Botetourt, very strong team. When I say strong, I mean that literally. Mm-hmm. They are a weightlifting focused type of team. They focus on nutrition. Their head coach, Jamie Harless, is kind of a pioneer in that area in terms of making sure his kids are lifting in ways that is going to prepare them as best as possible. And there's just a ton of talent there, too. They've got Jesse Hansen, of course, who's headed to Virginia Tech, the offensive lineman, the number 1 ranked recruit, I believe, in all of Virginia. They've got a sophomore running back, Hunter Rice, who's just phenomenal. And they've got a lot of nice complementary pieces, Evan Eller, Jake DeWeese, and a few others that are going to make Lord Botetourt a tough out. They've only lost to Blacksburg by 10. They lost to Northside on 2 late field goals this past Friday night in a classic game at Northside. So Botetourt's a very tough team. Blacksburg got by them. Amherst, of course, people that follow high school football in Virginia know about the unfortunate situation with the coaching there. So that's a team a little bit in turmoil, but Frank Ross is one of the best running backs in the state. Richlands just upset William Byrd in Class 4 this week. I really thought William Byrd had a chance maybe to go 9-1 or 10-0, and here's Richlands rising up and giving them a defeat. I did not see that one coming, but Blacksburg took the measure of Richlands 49-17, playing on Christiansburg's artificial surface due to concerns over the field at Blacksburg from all the moisture from the hurricane. And then, of course, this last Friday night, it was an absolute college-type atmosphere in Salem at Spartan Stadium, packed on both sides of the stands. The coaches told me tonight at the coaches meeting they had trouble getting plays in because they couldn't hear anything. It was just that loud. And Blacksburg, of course, lost the Region 4D championship game last year to Salem. Missed a 2-point conversion, had 1 extra point blocked, another one that doinked off of the left upright. So Blacksburg had a pretty sour taste in its mouth. And the thing that really impressed me about Blacksburg's kids, while they were frustrated by that loss, it wasn't that they circled the calendars. It was like all Salem, all off season. They definitely wanted to beat Salem, but they wanted to get better. Whether it had been Louisa, Sharando, Eastern View, you name it, whoever it would have been, if Blacksburg had lost that game the same way, it would have been the same kind of approach. And these kids are very much like the 2016 team in that they looked at the trip to Salem as a business trip. We need to go up and take care of business. Last year was last year. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We got to go up and play our game and do what we do. And that's what Blacksburg did. And the MO for Blacksburg this year is they are very much a big play-oriented offense. They don't run the ball much at all, but they've got a 3-year starter at quarterback in Grant Johnston. His dad, Chad, who started 3 years at WVU, played a couple of years in the NFL with the Panthers as the offensive coordinator. And they've got a trio of speedsters that can absolutely fly. And you put this team on an artificial surface, and they are tough to beat. They just beat you with speed. Most people in the state know about Tyquest Terry, committed to UVA. They have another player, Kareem Muhammad, who's a junior, and he is, I guess you could call him Tyquest Terry light maybe, but he is proving himself to be a very speedy, very capable receiver as well. Thomas Coffey, another senior that was injured most of last year, got injured in the first game of the year against Giles, came back very late in the year. He's having a big year. He's the touchdown receptions leader for Blacksburg so far. So there were a lot of pieces there on offense that were returning that we that follow Blacksburg knew if the offensive line could give the quarterback time to throw, this could be a lethal offense. And the offensive line's still a little bit of work in progress at Blacksburg. I don't think the coaches feel like they've arrived just yet. They are getting better. They worked a lot this week on gap control on offense, and they did that, I thought, pretty nicely against Salem. And I'll say this about the Salem Spartans, one of the classiest programs in all of Virginia. Their head coach, Steve Megenbauer, there's not a better gentleman in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and he's certainly one of the better coaches in the history of high school football in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it was nothing but class at the end of the game, which I knew it would be. When Salem came across to shake hands, you didn't see any sort of jawing or anything like that. It was very, very professional. So kudos to the Salem program, and their fans were classy as well after the game. Just a really great high school football environment here Friday night, Blacksburg and Salem.
No doubt about it. We're chatting with Mark Foudy. He's the voice of the Bruins of Blacksburg High. You can hear him on ESPN Blacksburg, and you can follow him on Twitter, too, at BHS FB Radio here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast as we're chatting some high school football and specifically about the Bruins of Blacksburg High and some other teams and players of note in the Roanoke area. Mark, as I look at that Blacksburg team, you touched on that offensive line, that really being a key point. I thought that Lord Botetourt game was so crucial with the strength they have up front, the way they were able to open up holes and give protection to Johnston, and you saw Terry make some key plays. But I look at quarterbacks around the state, and while Johnston has been a multi-year starter on a championship team and put up big numbers, I kind of think he gets slept on a statewide scale. Do you get the sense as well, and have you heard any news in terms of recruiting for him? Who's kind of keeping an eye on him at the next level?
Well, of course, his dad has the connection to West Virginia, and I think Chad is hoping that they might take a little bit more interest than they have. Locally, Jacob Knight is another quarterback for Cave Spring High School who can really spin a nice football. You watch him warming up in practice, he has just picture-perfect form throwing the football. And I think those are probably the two premier quarterbacks in this area. Cave Spring just doesn't have as many assets to surround the quarterback as Blacksburg does, but we'll just have to see where Grant ends up going. I think there's still a lot of tape yet that Grant needs to put together. But if you looked at his highlight today, and I did just that, he put out on Twitter a new update to his huddle highlight. You can just see some of these throws are just college-level type throws, and somebody is going to pick him up. I know his dad has had him out at the 3D QB quarterback camp out in California 2 or 3 times this summer. That camp has clients named Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, people like that. So he's getting some top-level instruction. And I'll say this about him, Matt. In the game against Lord Botetourt, and this was, I guess, about probably midway through the second quarter, Blacksburg handed the ball off to Brian Mitchell, whose father is the defensive backfield coach at Virginia Tech, another speedster for Blacksburg. And he started to his left, found some white jerseys from Richlands waiting for him, turned around, cut back across the field, and Grant Johnston absolutely laid out a Richlands defender. And we were oohing and awing in the press box and in the stands. And when you've got a quarterback like that is willing to sacrifice himself for his teammates, everybody on that sideline just erupted. And that's the kind of player that Grant Johnston is. He's very, very critical to this offense functioning correctly, but he's also a team-oriented player, and he will be a real asset to some college or university somewhere when his career here at Blacksburg is over.
No doubt about it, and he has the college-level size, being 6'5", 215 pounds. At least that's what he's listed at. Defensively for this team, you don't hear about a lot of those big names as much. They certainly have some quality linebackers that are seniors and veterans. When you think of Cole Epperly, when you look at a Drew Babcock and some others, who's kind of stood out to you defensively for this Bruins team thus far?
Well, it's been a really nice team effort, and any time that you can hold Salem to 21 points, you've accomplished something right there.
No doubt.
This team, along the defensive front, is fairly solid. Tim Sawyers is very good up front. Donald Norris has been a tackling machine along the front line. Craig Weaver, the son of the late Virginia Tech athletic director Jim Weaver, also on the defensive line. They've been a little bit of a pleasant surprise. That was an area that some of us that followed Blacksburg pretty closely were wondering, after losing Gideon Driscoll, who's walked on at Virginia Tech, is this going to be perhaps a weak link on this Blacksburg team? But they have more than held their own, and Epperly and Babcock are certainly two fierce tacklers and hitters on defense. In the defensive backfield, Brian Mitchell goes both ways. He serves as the free safety and kind of keeps the lid on the defense. The cornerbacks have done exceptionally well. Luke Goforth, as also the punter for Blacksburg, has done a terrific job when Blacksburg has needed him to punt the ball, flipping the field. This is a well-rounded defense. They don't get as much credit as the offense because the offense has the big plays and the pop and the sizzle, but there is nothing shabby whatsoever about this defense. And special teams for Blacksburg have been just that, very, very special. They have not allowed a punt return or a kickoff return, and I was about ready to start the research. I don't think any team has gotten on a kickoff past the 30-yard line on Blacksburg yet.
Wow.
And on punt returns, Blacksburg has not given up a punt return of any sizable yardage yet either. So really all three sides of the ball for Blacksburg performing at a very high level right now. I think the first ratings will come out from the VHSL either this week or next. You probably know that answer more than me, but I think Blacksburg's probably going to be the top-ranked team in Region D. And really, there is no weakness on Blacksburg unless when you get into the end of the year, sometimes you need to control the football, eat up clock, and have a running game. Mm-hmm. Well, Blacksburg has been hitting on so many big plays. They just haven't had an opportunity yet or a need to develop a running game that can chew the clock and move the sticks. That may be one thing that they'll need to focus on in the back half of the season. Blacksburg's schedule was very much front-loaded, with the exception of Pulaski County, which I think is the biggest remaining obstacle maybe for Blacksburg running the table in the regular season. Most of their difficult games were in the first half of the season. Now there's the back half. They'll be playing some teams that have been struggling. Could present an opportunity for the coaching staff to maybe work on that running game a little bit, get it in shape for the playoff run.
That's an interesting point there with the grounding the ball out there. As we saw a couple years ago, they got a big lead in that state semi-game. Phoebus came a little bit back, but you're right, with so many dynamic speedsters and big playability, and that special teams has just been absolutely tremendous when you think of Terry in the return game, and even Camden Wise was kicking now at JMU, I believe it is. So should be fun to see how the special teams does here as they get into some of those big games come playoff time here. And last two, we'll let you go here, Mark. Really enjoyed talking with you. You mentioned the schedule's pretty much, you've played many of the big ones for Blacksburg. So what are you looking forward to seeing the rest of this schedule here for the football teams out there in the Roanoke and Blacksburg area? You could throw in Blacksburg there. What's kind of the storylines you'll be following as we get closer to the playoffs out there?
Well, I think Northside is a big story to follow, and I think for all the right reasons. You all had Lord Botetourt as the top-ranked team in this region, if not all of the state, in Class 3 going into the season. But Northside is proving to be a very formidable team. They've got a really nice running back in Princeton Hall. They've got a dual-threat quarterback in Jalen Jackson. They just defeated Botetourt this weekend. They got a 1-point win over Pulaski County in the opening game where Pulaski County missed a couple of extra points, and Blacksburg knows that pain all too well. Yeah. But Northside is a team that people need to look out for. The last time that Salem lost 3 in a row, Northside was one of the 3 that hung a loss on them, and they won the state championship that year. I think Northside could be, well, I don't know if a dark horse anymore is the right term. They might be starting to get to look like more like a light horse or a white horse.
Agree.
To maybe run the table and go all the way in Class 3. So certainly I think the battle there between Botetourt and Northside is going to be one to watch. That's one of the rare situations where those two teams will play twice. They'll play again here in 2 or 3 weeks, I believe it is, the rematch up at Daleville at Lord Botetourt. So fans around the state should keep an eye on Northside and keep an eye on Lord Botetourt in Class 3. Class 2, Giles is a team to look out for, but another team around here that is 5-0 right now and could make some noise and make a deep run is the Glenver Highlanders. Yes. They've got a really good quarterback in Landry Gerbers. They've got a terrific running back in Brady Loader. That's another team that people could watch for in Class 2. A big game coming up this weekend is in Class 2, Radford and Giles getting together. Radford's off to a pretty good start, too, at 4-1. So that could be a big game in Class 2 as well.
Yeah, and Radford just got a nice win about a week or so ago, which should be interesting to see. Before we let you run here, Mark, tell the folks where they can follow some of your work on the radio, on the airways, and how they can keep up with the Bruins and other football teams out there.
Well, we have a show that we do every Tuesday night from PK's Restaurant here in Blacksburg where we talk high school football for an hour. It's Steve Adams who does a local weekly kind of variety play-by-play game of the week on a sister station of ESPN Blacksburg. But fans can listen to Blacksburg games anytime by going to espnblacksburg.com and then click on the Listen Live icon. There's also an app that you can download from the App Store, ESPN Blacksburg. And just download that. As soon as you download that app and as soon as you click on it, you get the live feed. And so on a Friday night, if your favorite team is not playing that week, we would love to have you tune in. And those are the ways you can listen to what we do here for Blacksburg High School. And we really enjoy doing it and appreciate any comments that the fans might give on how we can improve. We're always looking to give the fans the best broadcast we possibly can, and any constructive feedback is certainly welcome.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll be tuned in on a couple of those Friday nights and throughout the rest of the postseason. Again, you can follow them on Twitter, too, at BHSFB Radio. Go check out ESPN Blacksburg on the web. Mark, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Looking forward to it, Matt, as always. Take care.
You got it. That's Mark Fout, the voice of the Blacksburg Bruins here on the VirginiaPreps.com podcast. So we thank Mark Fout of ESPN Blacksburg giving us a chance to chat about the Bruins of Blacksburg High and their great season and other teams and players of note out there. It's been a jam-packed show, the second one of September on this 2018 for VirginiaPreps.com podcast. And you hear September, do you remember? Yes, it is the end of our Virginia Preps podcast for September. The next time we will talk with you, it will be October, and it's been a crazy month with the weather, the humidity, the lightning, the hurricane, and all of that. Let's put it behind us now and get closer to the playoffs. Nicer weather, a little cooler, not exactly freezing cold yet, folks. I'm looking forward to it. One quick item to pass along before we bid adieu. Some kudos to some commitments out there on the football side. Salem's Avery Close has committed to play his college football at the University of Richmond with the Spiders. So congrats to Avery, a defensive end and tight end for Stephen Magenbauer Spartans. Also on the basketball side of things, Miles Jones going to play for his dad, Mike Jones, the Radford High School standout. Also a teammate of Quentin Morton Robertson, we told you last week, committed to Radford University. Well, so is Miles. He's going to play at Radford for his pops. So congrats to Miles on his college commitment. Brother Nate over there at Bucknell playing his college hoops. So that'll do it. We thank our guest, Mark Fout, the play-by-play voice of the Blacksburg Bruins, as well as Highland Springs head football coach Loren Johnson. I'm Matt Hatfield, and we'll do it again in October right here on VirginiaPreps.com.